Gonna hopefully help you guys use AI to accelerate your acquisitions journey. So I know everyone in this call, a lot of them at least, are actively trying to acquire real estate, trying to acquire businesses, anything in between. I have some tips for you guys on how to use AI to do it. Goals of today's call. Very simply put, I hope to give you some frameworks, the frameworks I use to maximize outputs with AI, and through doing so, hopefully improving your confidence on how to do these things yourself. Secondly, hoping to give you some tips to accelerate your acquisitions timeline. Um, for my fellow AI users on this call today, some of these things might be information you already know, but I think one or another, hopefully I could give you some tips that you could take into your own practices. So everyone should be able to learn something from today's call. I'm hoping what this call uh, will accomplish is it inspires you to buy your favorite $20 or cheap version of some sort of AI subscription. I use Claude day to day as of, the past month or so, been a big Claude user. That's probably the one I would recommend for most, but it doesn't have to be Claude. It could be ChatGPT, could be Gemini, whichever one maybe your work allows you to use. Also, you could use that one. I hope this, if you haven't already done so, encourages you to do this. And hopefully, the other thing I encourage you to do today is design one sort of tool that could help you daily, whether it be for your business, for real estate, for your W-2, personal life, things like that. Um, Everyone on this call, whether you're myself and if you've been using AI for a long time or you haven't, there is something you could be building this week to help with your day-to-day work. So this is what I'm hoping everyone does on this call by the end of the week. Some quick disclaimers, some quick messages about what this is going to be about. First half, I'll be talking a lot about sort of frameworks I use to help make these tools. Second half, we'll kind of talk more about how I made an AI acquisitions team. Everyone here is at a different level. I know a lot of people that are even ahead of me on this call. Um, With that said, I'm going to definitely cater this towards some beginners. So if you understand everything I'm saying today, you're in a really great spot. And if this is being recorded, so you'll be able to access this in the future. Um, but I wanted to make this a point that what is true today might not be true next week or the month after, or especially if you're new to Action Academy a year from now in 2027. The things we discuss on this call might already be outdated. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Other things, I'm not an AI genius. I've been playing with AI very heavily over the last, 6 to 8 months or so. I would not describe myself as a genius, but these things I discussed today are things every single person can do. Um, I'm not going to get much into security or governance of using AI. That's also something I think you need to do a lot of research on if you're to make these things on your own. Please do your own research. There's a lot of smart AI folks on this call, so if any of them are on with me, feel free to answer questions in the chat if they pop up that you know the answer to. I might call some people out if I know that they've done similar projects. Be like, hey, so and so, can you respond to this topic? I know you've done something exactly like this. I might call some people out if the questions arise. And then finally, stick around to the end. I have some resources to help you guys out with this stuff. All right. A lot of people have messaged me in the past asking, how do you identify something, anything that AI could help you with? A lot of people understand they should be using AI. They don't know exactly what for. Maybe it just doesn't seem to fit into your day-to-day workflows. You might not understand or connect the dots on how can this actually be helping you tangibly. What I like to say, I know a lot of others kind of copy this sort of mantra, is if you could write an SOP for it, AI could likely take it over. So if you're able to articulate everything on maybe a Google Doc, standard operating procedure, AI has gotten to the point that it could start to take that procedure over for you if you prompt it correctly to do so. So as you're kind of thinking through your day-to-day workflows, as you're thinking through how can AI help me on a day-to-day basis, think about the things that you do on a repeated process over and over again. Go ahead and document that process. And there's a lot of possibilities to be able to share that process with AI to take over some of those things for you. That's kind of a rule of thumb. Obviously, I'll give you some pretty specific examples here. Um, the thing I built for you guys today, and we'll be talking about as I talk through all my frameworks, as I talk through a lot of the logic that I went into building these tools, is I made an AI agent acquisitions team. Um, I built it in the last 24 hours or so. I started last night, kind of prompted AI a little bit. It built this sort of prototype for me. This morning, I kind of went through and made a lot of changes that I wanted to make. And obviously, I've made a lot of these tools in the past for others, for other companies, for my own sort of work. But I wanted to do this one in the last 24 hours or so to prove that this process doesn't take you forever. You might see someone present an AI tool and you might be like, wow, they must have worked on this for months, or it must have taken them an extreme amount of time for them to be able to prepare something as good as this. And I'm hoping this presentation proves to you that that's not the case. It's not something you have to fret overdoing or push off in days or weeks down the line because it truly doesn't take that long. If you understand how to go about it or the process to going about it, then it could certainly be done. You could have something built within a day that actually serves you. Um, so I'm going to be talking through that today. This is a framework I came up with. I use it in my consulting. I use it in my any sort of AI builds that I do. I would write, this is one thing that I would write down from this. If you're taking any notes, feel free to. It's called the DASA framework. This is my sort of workflow to building out any sort of AI tools. If I know I want to implement AI into my business, or a client comes to me and says, I want to make this an automated process, this is the process I go through. It starts with diagnosing the problems you need solved, articulating the exact solution you're looking for, systemizing or creating the system that works without AI, and then finally building the AI to take a lot of those systems off your hands. I'm going to get into each of these pieces. So, starting with the diagnose phase, as I was thinking through making an AI acquisitions team, um, I was thinking about all the problems that I might be facing on a day-to-day basis. And disclaimer, I'm not actively doing any acquisitions right now. I was heavily doing acquisitions a couple of months ago with the RAL room team. So I'm kind of acting like this is my RAL, my residential assisted living sort of acquisitions team. I was diagnosing some of the problems I was having a couple of months ago. So I'm currently the bottleneck in my acquisitions funnel. I work long hours, don't have much time to do all these things. I'm great at underwriting, interacting with brokers, but my response time is lacking. I kind of just got all of these out on paper, right? I was diagnosing the problems that I need to eventually solve. Whatever sort of tools that I make need to fix these problems, or else you're just wasting time. A lot of people build AI tools that don't actually solve any issues. It might just be a shiny object. This is a way to prevent that, is actually get these out on paper and let yourself know, if I build a tool to help me, what problems am I actually solving for? Again, like email was a complete mess, CRM not being actively updated. I made, AI deal analysis tools in the past, but they rely on me to pass them info. I know most of the people on this call have something in common with me that I had a couple of months ago. Next step is I articulate. So exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. Using the 5 Ws, I don't know if anyone remembers from like grade school, but I think this is something we used in like history class or something like that. Essentially describing the who, what, where, when, why, and then also how you want to go about fixing these issues, or talking about exactly what solution might serve you. So starting with who. Currently, I do everything in my acquisitions funnel, but I want a lot of this to be done by an agent team. So the highest leverage pieces, the last 20% of it, is left to me. The things that I actually want to do are, talking directly to brokers, underwriting only the best deals, and press and go on messages needing to be sent out. The rest of it, I want AI to take for me. The what I want to create is I need a AI agent hub that's trained on all of these things for me. It's Claude based, so it has Claude acting as the AI brain. Where do I want this to occur? I want this to live in a dashboard of some kind and also connect to my Google Workspace, plus use whatever platforms Claude recommends to me. I have a couple of ones that I could send you guys on other things that other tools that you might want to use, including where to host things. But for the case of this example, I just said whatever Claude recommends. When do I want it available? Next 24 hours. Also, I want it running 24/7. The why part was the diagnose section above, and then how is I want to use Claude Code to create this for me. Um, it's very important to list out as much detail as possible as you're kind of building this thing, because the more you could specify to AI in the AI build phase, how you want it to look, where you want it to be located, who you want to be doing what. Um, the summary that I could make of how to prompt AI is just add as much detail as possible. In these last two phases, the D phase and the A phase, both are just trying to describe the exact solution that you might be looking for. The more granular you could get, the better. Then we get to the S phase, which is systemize. This will probably, if done correctly, be the longest phase that you go through. Usually that's not actually the case. Usually the AI build phase, the last phase, is the hardest. But the reason I say this should take you a while is you need to take as much time as possible to, again, train the AI by gathering your resources. So some of the things I gathered for the case of building this sort of dashboard includes all my SOPs that I use. Have a broker outreach SOP, email management SOP, CRM management. I had a custom GPT I was using to underwrite some deals for me, so on and so forth. I have all these templates that I fed it. I made, scripts letting them know where my data lives. I have Go high level for a CRM system. I have an Excel document with different deals I was analyzing. I feed all this information and at least collect it prior to even prompting AI. All of these three steps, the D phase, the A phase, and the S phase, all should be pre-AI for the most part. Obviously, you could use AI to help you come up with some of these SOPs and whatnot. Um, but I have, prior to even opening Claude, I had a lot of this ready to go. So when I open Claude, I could try to get it right on try number one. Um, the biggest part, the part that most people overlook in building anything using AI, is the compliance aspect and the accountability aspect of it. And what I mean by that is part one, has this process actually worked for people in the past? A lot of people, especially newer to the acquisitions process, might kind of have a loose SOP they follow. It might not be a proven process. Um, that probably won't cut it for a really good outcome with AI, because you want to be feeding in systems that have already proven to work. Um, the reason I had a lot of confidence in building something like this is that I've had previous LOIs go under contract for residential assisted living. I have proven the systems I am passing to it work for us. And also, my team actually follows these SOPs in the first place. I'm not just making these things up. These are actually things that work for us. We do these manually. We were manually underwriting deals, manually managing our CRM, manually doing email management, so on and so forth. Um, and it had high compliance already. Hence, if we pass it to AI, I know it will continue to keep up. A lot of people want to pass it to AI with some sort of loose system that they already don't follow in general. You can't, have AI take systems that don't already work or that you haven't already been using in the first place. So it's very important to make sure there's buy-in from your team. If you're working on a team, you want to make sure these have been proven in the past. If you haven't proven any of these systems in the past, you could work with someone who has a proven system. So obviously with like self-storage, talk to Brandon Hicks about some of his sort of systems and workflows he might use if he's willing to give you any advice on that. To build these out. I don't want you to just kind of make up things and feed it into this system, or else it won't work for you. Couple of notes. Automating chaos is scaling chaos. Kind of go to that last note. If you are trying to automate a chaotic workflow or something that you don't really follow yourself, if you don't manually do the tasks that you set out the AI to do and you haven't proven that to work in the past, you're probably just scaling chaos at the end of the day. We want to make sure that you're actually, using systems that work for you. Um, and yeah, like it says here, this will only work if you have proven systems. If you're passing AI a system that hasn't worked for you, the AI probably won't be able to serve you very much because it's just going to continue that system or escalate it because it'll be running 24/7. Um, I'm going to take a break in a second to take any questions that might have come up prior to doing some demos. But here were some of the um, roles that I thought would be helpful for my build out of the acquisitions team. So the manager role kind of takes in messages from other agents, hands them off to others with instructions, interfaces with myself. This is supposed to be the main agent, I use agent in quotations, that I interface with and kind of deploys other tasks, assigns tasks to people, so on and so forth. Admin assistant manages my calendar, email management, CRM management, pretty straightforward. Broker outreach ensures that the brokers that we're trying to nurture are actually being followed up with. Obviously, if you've been in the acquisitions game for a bit, you understand how important it is to have those broker relationships, especially everyone that went to the SBA workshop in Arizona. You understand that most of the best deals are accomplished off market. This broker outreach agent, I'm hoping, accomplishes that for me. Underwriter, this is kind of the main goal of the underwriter is to sort out 80% of the deals that won't make sense for us. Essentially trying to cut my time down by 80% with manual underwriting, only pass me the 20% best deals to actually do a manual underwriting. Um, Deal finder, search the internet for deals, highlight ones that pop up, and then document creation, make LOIs, presentations, things like that. These are kind of the areas that I worked in my sort of acquisitions funnel, and I think I should try to start to automate. Um, One thing I wanted to note is none of these things should be completely taken over by AI ever. There always should be some sort of small role you're playing in all of these pieces. For instance, I am not ever going to have email just start to, take my complete email management off my hands. If I'm setting up an email manager, I have it draft emails for me versus automatically reply. So I can just go in and press go. I just want to have that extra check in place just in case it messes up. Obviously, these things will heavily mess up early on for you. Always have some sort of checkpoint in place. Likewise with the underwriting assistant, I'm never going to have it do full underwritings for me. I'll have it do a preliminary underwrite for me on a lot of deals, send me the best one so I can do a manual underwriting on the best ones, trying to essentially use my time as wisely as possible. Um, I think I'm going to do a quick pause here. Is there any questions that we have so far?
Ryan,
Yeah.
can you talk about the email that you're saying where it's like putting it in draft? How does that look like? Does it go into a folder that you log into, like the actual manual process? Can you kind of walk us through how that looks? And then also too, how long did it take for the emails responses to not be shitty? Like how long did it like learn to be pretty good?
Yeah, so the way I have it set up is I've connected my Gmail account to it. I use Google Workspace for everything I do. It has access to my inbox and it drafts emails in like the drafts folder right now. I could kind of make it, more different types of drafts folders, but for the sake of what I'm doing right now, it just does a draft in my email draft folder. Um, when it was it didn't take very much time for me to train it to look really good because part of the materials I gathered during um the build phase um was a lot of email templates that I've used in the past, was email interactions. I actually have a Google Doc just copy and pasted a ton of previous interactions I've had with brokers, for instance. I copy and pasted
Mm.
all of them. It understands how I sound. And a lot of the logic that I kind of wrote was refer to my email templates. So you understand how I would respond to this.
Does
Obviously,
it ping you when when you have multiple emails that you have to manually log in? Like how does it alert you that you just got not four brokers that responded?
it's a So the way it works, this is actually, since I did this, this is a different build. This is separate from the thing I built in the last 24 hours. But the way I would have it work is you want to set up some sort of email triage system. There's a lot of different ways to do that. I think Claude could do it for you as well. But essentially, have any emails that hit your inbox be separated into different folders based on essentially on priority. Um, Obviously, broker interactions being super high priority and have it automatically draft responses um, to anything in the high priority inbox is the way I do it. And then if it's like a newsletter email, it's in a low
All right.
priority inbox, it doesn't automatically draft those.
Love it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Ryan, I got a question.
Yeah.
Um, how impactful do you think the manager agent real is? Like, do you really need that to like, because I've seen people online say like they've created their team of agents and then they got like a manager. I mean, there must be a reason, but like, do you think it's like super useful?
For what I have, no, you'll see that in a second.
Okay,
But I think it can get. And I'll show you a demo of why it might be useful to people. And it's really when multiple tasks need to occur. Obviously, the underwriting assistant works separate from the other ones, but let's say I have a really good deal. Underwriter, go underwrite this, follow, and then draft an email follow-up to a broker and also make a draft LOI for me. This is essentially deploying multiple agents, and the manager is the middleman. So the underwriting assistant will go into action first, report back to the manager. This is done. Here's the information to hand off to the other agents, and then it'll kind of continue from there. And I'm actually going to demo that in a second. But um, for where I'm at after this 24-hour build, it's not that useful. But where it can be, as you start to build these out more and more, it essentially could be the only sort of bot you interact with. And it could just go tell the other bots to reply based on need.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'll continue on here. I think this will answer some more questions too. All right. Um, so now we're finally ready to talk to AI. And again, obviously you could play with AI earlier than this especially if you want to make prototypes, but I'm trying to give an outline that will help you do this in a faster timeline overall. So you don't have to spend all your tokens and you get nowhere. I'm trying to essentially set this up so you could jump into AI and have a pretty good output from round number one. Um, This is kind of the just general process for how I worked with Claude. It's super straightforward. I have a framework I'll share with you in a second. It's called the RCRQ framework. Um, to hand info off to Claude, just the chat, and then have it make a .md file, which serves as the instruction manual for Claude Code. Add this to a folder, open Claude Code. That's the beginner way to start. The RCRQ framework is essentially a prompting framework I use to make sure that I'm interacting with AI. My screen loads as effectively as possible. I don't know if it was a Dan Martell or Callan Faulkner framework. This is another thing that you could definitely write down. Um, This is not by me. I wish it was. But this is essentially how I talk to AI every time I open AI to try to get the best outcome. Um, 90% of people just use AI like they would use Google. This is how a set of instructions that you could type out to make sure that you're using AI at a higher level than you would use Google. And that means defining these four things every time you open an AI chat, whether it's just Claude Chat, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, ChatGPT, whatever you're using, If you define these things, you'll get a much better outcome, and that is the role, the context, the request, and the questions. So I'm going to get into it for my example. Here is what I passed Claude Code last night. So um, I think you guys can see me zooming in. Role you is exactly the role you want the AI to play for you. You are an AI expert or AI project architect who specializes in building Claude-based agent systems for real estate acquisitions operators. You think in systems, right? Precise technical briefs, so on and so forth. Um, Trying to define this in as much detail as possible. I like even using you are an expert in this field with 30 plus years of experience and you're a top one percenter in this field, essentially trying to help the AI understand that you are an expert and you should be responding as such. Context, this is kind of typically what people pass to AI. But the general theme being all the information that you could give. So I'm a assisted living investor, building AI acquisitions team to handle 80% of my deal funnel so I can focus on the 20% that requires my judgment. I'm going to pass you a bunch of these things. I'll show you some of those things in a second. I want the AI agents to run on a local app called the Claude API, be built in Claude Code. The request being use all the materials I pass you to generate the MD project, .md project. And then finally, the part that I think most people miss and why some people might not get the outputs they're looking for is this last line. It's hard to see at the bottom, but I always add this to every prompt I make. It's a questions prompt. So I always ask clarifying questions prior to getting started to every prompt that I do. That way you're straight, in a straightforward way, giving the AI permission to ask you clarifying questions so that it could improve the output it gives you. Sometimes, or most of the time, AI just kind of jumps into action and starts doing things and probably gives you bad outputs. This largely solves for that by allowing the AI to um, improve its response prior to even generating it. So this only adds like 30 seconds to your workflow, but it should save you a lot of time and a lot of tokens. Here's some of the things I passed it as well. Obviously, again, this is kind of just a use case because I'm not actually gonna be doing the acquisitions funnel for a while. But I passed it my deal calculator. I passed it intro deck on me and my team. Passed it all of the information I told you today. I collected it in this Action Academy Tuesday call doc. I have an SOP for all of these different processes that I do, including email management, including all of the other SOPs that I've collected, pasted them all in here. I had a custom GPT I was using for underwriting. I added it here and I added my buy box. As much information as you could add, whatever information you could add will be helpful. I pass it all along with the prompt above. And gave me a .md file. I passed that to Claude Code. I made a specific folder for this locally, call it just Action Academy call. And then it started building this for me. So trial number one, did my screen share follow me to this next screen?
Yes, it did.
Cool, thanks. Trial number one, it gave me this. So this was draft number one. I only prompted the AI a singular time because I fed it all of that information and it came up with this dashboard for me. It's hosted locally, obviously, it's not a web app yet. But here's how it looks. So has the manager agent that it automatically opens up with, says whether all of these tools are ready to go or not. It's pretty good. I can prompt the manager here. Underwriter, see what this looks like. There were some sample deals that were like demo deals that it gave me, which I thought was pretty cool. And then you can also add all the information that you get about a deal, add it into this box, add all of these different criteria, run a preliminary underwriting for you. Again, preliminary meaning it does a sort of rough draft underwriting for you. I never say completely underwrite with AI. It should do a lot of the early work for you, but not do the complete underwriting. So could do that for me. Thought that was pretty cool. Um, I have the admin assistant. It's a very plain sort of area it gave me for the admin assistant, but I could just paste in previous emails and then it would draft responses for me. Um, Obviously, I wanted to improve upon this. I have the broker outreach area. This is just like to draft broker specific responses. Again, um, not everything I was hoping for, but a good start on all of these things. And then the deal finder. This is kind of useless. The deal finder it gave me was pretty useless. It just gave me some of the sources I could be using to find deals, and then also had me just go look for the deals myself. I was obviously I would never use this deal finder in real life. But generally speaking, what you want to get out of the first draft is understand all the things you want to change going into the second draft. It's the first draft's never going to be great, but for a first draft, not too bad. Also tells you the agent status, even though you can't see them here. That was another thing I wanted to change. So I kind of came up with this long list to bring back to Claude, post it giving me this mediocre outcome. Um, it did follow my directions, though. You have to give it that. So going back to the slideshow here. I typed all of this out. I essentially made a voice note with all these things, but I said all the things overall I want to change, what I want to change about the manager, the underwriting assistant, the admin assistant, broker outreach, and the deal finder. Um, I just started giving all of this information to Claude. Here's all the things I want you to change on round number two, um, including like some of the buttons weren't working. The font colors were weird. I couldn't read some of the things. I didn't like how it was laid out on this draft number one. Um, the manager was having a lot of issues when I was actually trying to use it. So I had all of those listed here. Underwriter I thought looked really good. The admin assistant, I wanted to change the button. And then the broker outreach and the deal finder both were kind of useless. So I made sure to let Claude know I thought that. Um, and then it came up with a second draft for me. Um, and then that was way better. And then probably after how many iterations? Maybe 6 iterations, maybe I kind of landed on what I have today. Obviously, I wasn't just doing this full time over the last 24 hours. I was kind of doing this between projects, kind of seeing what Claude spit out to me, improving upon it as I went. And so over probably I would say 3 hours of build time, I landed on this dashboard here. Um, After me again prompting back and forth between Claude. So already out of the gate, I like the color scheme a little bit better. Um, I centered a lot of the writing. The previous dashboard had a lot of left center or um, weird spacing issues with it. Some of the things that look way different now. Um, I have a task dashboard that's always running. So if I give any of these assistants um, tasks, it will add the agent tasks here. And then if I have any action items from those tasks, they'll pop up here. I'll demo that in a second. There's a team status dashboard still that shows where they're all at. This is how I talk to the manager, and I'll show you that in a second. And then I actually added a KPI dashboard here. This doesn't actually mean anything. This is all made up statistics, but eventually I'll attach this to probably go high level to um, track everything based on how our funnel is going. I don't like tracking too many statistics, but I like tracking the ones that really matter to me. Some of the ones that matter to me in my team were how many deals we were underwriting. LOI sent being my favorite KPI. This might differ for people in different asset classes, but I think LOIs sent are a really strong indicator of when you'll get accepted deals, active in the pipeline, live count of brokers in the CRM. Obviously, it's 0 because I haven't connected it yet in real life. Didn't have enough time to do that. But underwriter looks very similar. Admin assistant. Um, it works way better than previously, but it kind of runs in the background drafting responses. I would show you, but I don't want to pull up my like work email. I don't want to share any confidential information on accident. Um, but it does run in the background, and you could also have it manage responses here. If you want a different type of response, you could kind of prompt it the way you want in this response inbox. Um, Broker outreach, if it loads. I added a couple of different windows, so obviously I could just draft, responses to brokers within this one window, but also it shows me ways to update my CRM by adding, pressing the save to CRM button, updating all these things automatically for me. If I have a call, for instance, or I have to change a stage, doesn't mean I have to go flip between CRM and this dashboard. It could do it all in one spot. And then the most important part actually being this alerts button tells me when statuses are changing. Theoretically, again, none of this is connected yet, but what it will do when it's all active is when a stage is triggered in my CR or a stage change is triggered in my CRM, then I'll get an alert here saying I have to do some sort of outreach to this broker. This is essentially recording my actions that I need to take with broker relations. I truly think the broker outreach assistant is probably the most important for how I was operating in my acquisitions work because all the deals that we got pretty far into negotiations on and the deals that we had a lot of success with and eventually had signed LOIs on were from us doing going through extreme measures to make sure we're friends with the brokers, making sure we're on the same terms with them, that we're messaging them consistently. Um, so I wanted to make sure if anything was being tracked, it's this sort of broker outreach stuff. Um, I also added an LOI writer here. It wasn't on the first draft. It's kind of crappy. This was not trained on any SOPs I gave it, so um, I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But then I have the Steel Finder as well. Um, this was the thing I was the most disappointed with. Um, as a lot of people know, especially in the AI chat group, there's a lot of hardship when trying to like scrape certain websites, especially biz buy sell, for instance. There's no native API or there's issues with webhooks and things like that. So the one thing I was hoping to be able to get by the end of the day was some sort of deal carousel that popped up here. I was able to do it in the past with different websites, but not biz buy sell today, where it would pop up with all these deals and you kind of navigate through them. There are ways to do it, but I didn't have the time to do it. This would be something that takes a little bit longer, but um, what else? To demo what this kind of looks like and how I was going about demoing it is I was trying to demo a couple of different things at once. So to do that, I was demoing with the manager, since the manager is able to um, deploy multiple agents at once, or at least deploy a chain of them together. So what I was doing is I have this example deal that is typical of what a broker might potentially send to us. Includes like the listing, the asking price, the type of assisted living, beds, location, market notes, value add opportunities, seller notes, a lot of different things that you might collect along the way. And the way I've been testing it to see if all of this works in, connected together is I simply say, first underwrite this deal, then come up with a response email to the broker, then finally draft an LOI. Press submit with the manager. It says it's analyzing. Either way, let's see if it comes up with anything. If not, I'll just restart it for you guys. But
Hey
that
Ryan,
usually takes
while
probably
while
close to.
it's doing that, is it able to come up with like things that look like odd, like, hey, thanks for sending me this deal. I noticed a few things that I'm a bit confused on where you kind of poke holes in their numbers. Is it able to like pull those things out that then it can then drop into an email to kind of like create a dialogue?
Yeah, yeah. So with my SOPs that I've written on um, doing like the preliminary underwriting, I always have it highlight green flags and red flags. The biggest green
Right.
flags it finds and the biggest red flags. I make sure to add that to your SOP prior to handing it off to the AI. But it does that, and then very specifically, my team was really big on value add opportunities and very big on identifying all the red flags in the sort of preliminary underwriting to see if these red flags are ones we could get over. Um, so I made that a very like strong part of my SOP, and now when I am able to demo it to you guys, should be momentarily. Um, of course, I'm getting errors now, figures right. Um,
Would you
then
be
it
able to,
would like
oh,
pop those things out. Sorry, what's up?
So
can you answer a couple more questions like while it's running?
Yeah.
Okay, someone else was speaking though. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Bethany.
So it was funny because this was like a joke in the chat, but I was thinking about it more seriously. So you said automating chaos is scaling chaos. And one of the things I appreciate about you, Ryan, is that you think in systems, you think in workflows, you think in process. I don't. Like I'm just like if you saw my desk right now, you'd probably like run and scream. Um, I'm just very like whatever the opposite of that is. So like can AI be helpful? Can these AI automations be helpful to me if I'm not like, I don't think in terms of SOPs? You were like, oh, it automates anything you have an SOP around. And I'm like, I don't know, I do everything differently every day. I'm an innovator. I just create new things. So I was just like, how can those of us who don't think in terms of SOPs and processes, who just kind of mosh our way through life, um, approach this when it's not our natural style? Like, do we have to become a process thinker?
Yeah. Do you have a specific like a specific use case you might think of, Bethany, or are you kind of just thinking for day to day?
Um, I don't know. I was trying to think about the things that I do on a daily basis that are repetitive, and like I guess check my email would be one, but I do it so haphazardly. I just kind of like scan a few in the morning, get to a few later on, answer this one, answer that one. I don't know that I have like a particular way in which I answer emails. Um, so like I know that this is a very popular thing for people to do, but I don't think in terms of, oh, I'm going to now answer every email like according to some voice guide and then just go in and I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, that's a great question. Especially coming from someone that's not that way. So maybe someone that is the opposite mindset of me would be better equipped to answer this question. Um, but I think there was actually some talks about this. Brandon brought up like, using like whisper flow to kind of plan out a lot of these things. That's kind of how I would think about it is maybe you could just discuss generally the problem that you're trying to solve. I kind of
Mhm.
like rambling for my sort of method to doing so. So I ramble to ChatGPT, I could ramble to Whisperflow, to Claude, to whatever AI that you want to, and talk about some of the things that you're facing and why this might be an issue for you. Some days it looks like this for me, but I'm having this, underlying issue, and then it could act at you if you prompt it correctly, being the RCRQ framework, the role part of how you prompt the AI to
I
respond
stopped
to you.
writing. I stopped following that. I used to follow that a lot, and now I do what I call venting and rambling, and I whisper
Yeah,
flow and I talk for this long, and then I say, write me a prompt that will solve this. Well, first I'm like, talk to me, help me figure it out, and then it will give me a 3-page prompt, but and it usually comes up with a better role. Um, I think. Maybe another example is this. So I'm launching my own consulting business, and I've been trying to figure out like the positioning, right? Like ideal client, but a positioning offer, and I'm not selling a thing, right? So as I've been talking to people, Claude creates talking notes for me, but we're kind of iterating on like, okay, based on this call, we are now adjusting your positioning. So I was like, can we just make this a skill since like I keep asking you, make me these talking notes, summarize it at the end. Um, and Claude was like, well, no, because we keep adjusting what we need and not doing like otherwise it would be kind of hard coded. And I didn't know if it was just because like Claude was like, you're too chaotic to have skills. Probably in more ways than one. Or if it was kind of legitimately when iterating, maybe hard coding a workflow or a skill isn't as helpful. Or was it no, there were probably like skills I could have put around it and still iterated? These are very meta questions. I don't know. But you made that point about chaos, so I thought I would introduce chaos into your
Yeah.
presentation.
Well, no, I think it's an important question, and I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to what you're saying, Bethany. The I think this actually, in a roundabout way, might be an answer that you've given me in the past, Bethany, is you could use AI to be that opposite mindset
Mm.
person as yourself.
Okay,
I am not a visionary thinker, as you guys could probably
interesting.
tell. I'm very systems and operations oriented. So a lot of the prompting I do with AI is the role being you act as my visionary and you have this sort of mindset about things. You act as essentially the opposite disc assessment as myself, opposite mindset,
Hmm.
um, to help solve these problems. And I think the opposite might work for you is um, if you prompt it correctly, and maybe if you have any sort of systems thinker you look up to, I'm a big fan of always asking AI to act like Alex Hormozy for me because he operates in frameworks, and I like that. But he's probably not the opposite as myself. He's probably pretty similar. So try to come up with different thought leaders that you think could probably help you get by whatever this is.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah. And of course, I broke my app on my computer and it's running at 1,000,000 degrees. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
How
do it
many tokens
actually.
are you consuming right now as it's spinning
I've
up scale?
I've went through my token max twice in the last 24 hours on Claude with the $20 version. So um, yeah,
Any
thanks.
on tokens, I don't know if other people are beginning to hit that, like your daily limit is up. And then on Wednesday, I get your weekly limit is up and it resets
Yeah, yeah.
Friday at 5. Like not helpful. Any tips on like token management, like especially as we're building out these types of things?
Yeah, I think
And tool
the
limit. I hit that a ton. Like, and it's like, I just have to babysit this fucking thing the whole time. What's the point?
yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
I think the frameworks are my advice is if you are able to avoid all these sort of things the first go, if you're able to add all of this information the first go and really help it understand what you're trying to build,
Mm.
um, that is the best advice I could come up with right now. Is if you follow like the things I kind of outlined for you in that presentation are how I avoid hitting token limits is essentially just trying to limit how many back and forth interactions and babysitting I have to do with AI. And there's some like more higher level strategies that I know people are using. But I think that's like the most beginner friendly one.
Ryan, how are you thinking about it when it has to reference like multiple pieces of context? Like I saw something where it was essentially like you provide all of these SOPs and it's referencing all of them, which is like burning your tokens compared to if it was going to fetch like a very specific thing. Is that solved in the scripting aspect of the agent engineering, or is it, am I doing something wrong?
Yeah, do you have like a specific time that you ran into that, Lauren?
I mean, it's just like I haven't hit the limit yet with it, but I can imagine this is happening. I have like a folder with all of the like criteria when it comes to underwriting or evaluating deals,
Yep.
and it's referencing multiple files all at once. I don't want it to run all of those. I just want it to like target
Mm,
specific things. That should be solved in the script, right? And I'm just
yeah.
missing that
Well,
piece. Okay.
it is a great question. So I made sure when I was prompting Claude and helping it understand the different roles that I want it to play. I trained the in again, I don't like the agent terminology. It's just the most accepted term at this point. But all the agents are very specifically trained on different things. So while this whole project, I passed it a ton of criteria and a ton of SOPs and a lot of different stuff. I made sure that when you activate this agent, it only looks at these very specific aspects. So it could come down to the master, m.md file that you pass it in the first place. It could come down to you just telling Claude what things to reference along the way. But yeah, I try to make it as specific as possible what pieces of information are required when.
Thanks.
Ryan, that prompt that you showed, did that go straight into Claude Code? Like you had built you had showed a long like word text on the screen, and then right after that showed the local hosted page. Was that in Claude Code? And then I know Billy had a question earlier about how did you get it to create like the local hosted like page? Did it just do that on its own?
I'll show you again. I'll talk through it again. That's a great question. I'll share my screen one more time. Um, okay. So all the things I passed it were actually just I did the way I like working. This, I think other people operate differently. Um, Prior to making, I think the end goal that you want to start out with is making a .md file, which is essentially the instruction manual that will be the build instructions for Claude Code. I start in Claude Chat. So I added the RCRQ framework in here, and then I had a couple of back and forth interactions as it asked me questions. Then, after I answered those questions, gave me a .md file. Since I'm kind of picky about where I want things stored, I just made a local folder and then added the .md file to that folder along with the other materials that I have, and then handed it to Claude Code. And then so the next page, if it loads, as always. The next page, it has access to the folder I made, has access to the materials I passed the chat as well, but added it into the folder as well. I just said read the .md file to get us started. That's as simple as you need to make it to get started, but it's and you can do this. It doesn't have to be in the Claude Code window if you use like VS Code. That's kind of what I typically use for people that are deeper into the Claude Code world. But for your first time ever using Claude Code, this is kind of the framework I use. Did that answer your question?
Yes. And then is that only like that local, is that only to your device, like your computer? So
Yeah.
like if you wanted to say like create this for an assistant on your team so that they got a lot more leverage, how could you do that? Like I know that needed probably a little bit more work, but
Mhm.
that would be a lot, even just doing something like that and then giving that to like your VA or something and training them on that. So now they get a lot more leverage. I could see being a nice thing to do. So how would you do that so that they can use it?
Yeah. There's a couple of different ways. Depends what you kind of want the end form to look like. So you could obviously GitHub is a big website that people use to save a lot of these files and share files with others. So if that is what you wanted to do, you could do it there. You could host it on an app, like a web app. Vercel is a really popular one that people use where maybe you start building it locally until you appreciate it. Then you could start the process of making it like a web app that people could just type in some sort of URL, add a password, and then you're in as you're a certain user. That could be hosted on different sites as well. So it's kind of the way I think about it is I try to get it down locally so I appreciate it and then I hand it off to others.
Could you share that or could you put that in the chat? What's it called?
Mhm.
Vercel?
Yeah. And if anyone else has other ones that they appreciate, that would be awesome too. That's just the ones I've used in the past. Um, and then obviously GitHub if people have used them. But
Ryan,
um,
with that locally hosted hub, are you able to access that from mobile or no? Am I like, is that like a dumb question? Like,
it's not a dumb question. As of pretty recently, you can.
okay.
It's but there's caveats to it. So from what I understand, I haven't used this very often. So if someone has more information on this, definitely like jump in for me. But there's a new tool on the Claude app called Dispatch that if your computer is running or open and on, then you could have it like go do things locally on your computer from your phone. But the caveat is, from what I understand, your computer has to be
Yeah,
running.
you can't sleep. Okay, cool. That's what I was curious, and I just wanted to double check that assumption.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What's the security side for like the email bots or like the email agents? Like, would you suggest like doing like a separate email account for like for that outreach, like that Claude uses?
Yeah, like I guess what do you have a example of what sort of emails you'd be working with, Alex?
Well, I guess like my like personal email, right, would probably be fine. Like there wouldn't be a
Sure.
ton. But then like my right, if I was getting more into like a typical business email, usually I don't have people like send me sensitive or I try to avoid people sending me
Yep.
like sensitive information, but obviously like sometimes people will send me like information I wouldn't want to put into Claude. Is
Mm.
there a way to like folder out like Claude from those emails? Or is it kind of like you would definitely just want to have like a separate email account for Claude to use, if that makes sense, right? Like if someone's sending me
Yeah.
like tax information, like I wouldn't want any of that to go into Claude. But if I'm like reaching out to brokers on deals, like that's, obviously like, that would be fine.
Yeah. The short answer for you is I made a separate account for
Okay,
email agents. There's different ways to go about. We could talk offline, Alex,
sounds
about
good.
different
That
options, especially for the fields you're in. I understand what you're trying to say. So,
yeah.
but I actually just have a team at ryanschuetter.com email address that is actually the inbox that they work from, and it's primarily what I could see them doing outreach on, but it would never receive any sort of like specific information that all goes directly to me based
Okay.
on
So it'd kind of
emails.
be like an info ad or like admin at.
Right.
Okay.
And I
Just wanted
also,
clarification.
yeah, man, no worries. I also dropped a link in the chat a little bit ago. I have a guide on a lot of the things, like essentially the guide I follow to build this stuff. So you can feel free to fill out the Google form that I added to the chat there, and then I'll send you the guide probably at the end of the week on how to go about the same process.
Ryan, are you like how deep are you getting into the governance and um, I don't know, responsible AI space? And any suggestions for resources or folks to follow in that space?
Mm, it's a great question. I'm definitely not deep enough into it, as deep as I should be. Um, Yeah, there's different levels to it, right? I think there's a lot of people that kind of preach um, I guess like you using AI as like a personal assistant, how you could kind of navigate that. But then there's people doing it at a higher level that are cybersecurity analysts that talk about how to interact with clients at that level. Um, I have, I'll send you some videos I've watched in the past, Bethany, but I don't have like a specific guy or girl that I like tuning into for that stuff. Sorry, I didn't have a better answer to it. It's super important and it's hard to keep track of because that's a whole nother level.
Ryan, I've got a question. One concern I've had, and I mean, I haven't gotten this far, so I may be just worrying about things that are, 5 steps away that I should just build the thing. But how
Mhm.
much maintenance do you find like the agents need? Because like one concern of mine is like, oh, I'm gonna build this thing and now I'm just gonna spend all this time like maintaining it and updating it. And I did hear someone on social the other day say, hey, like if you're gonna bring on a team member, like whenever you make a hire, like a virtual assistant or anybody, like you never just plop them in and expect to not, like give them time and train them up. So like you should be thinking about this similarly. And I thought that was a fair point. But I mean, I am thinking like, man, I don't want to create this thing and then have to just like be like debugging all the time. And so I'm
Yeah.
wondering like how much maintenance, because I see all these agencies and they're like we'll do the setup and then we maintain it. And I don't know if they're just doing that so they can get recurring, or if
Yeah,
you really need to maintain.
I would say for the most part, they do really need to maintain. Not in relevance to the project I shared with you guys today, but I have like a Slack agent dashboard that I built out where for my personal business, I have a Slack channel that I message these AI agents that go do different tasks. I have like a sales one, a marketing one, a content one, things like that. Um, the way, and they would get a lot of errors early on, especially when updates would roll out. You definitely want to have some sort of log you build that if, like for instance, if I were to apply this idea to what I had today, I'd probably make a separate area on my dashboard for any sort of updates or software updates that are recorded, and additionally any sort of errors that come up in the automatic sort of sequences. So if the, admin agent encounters any errors, I make sure it alerts me on some sort of like list basis. So I have a running track record of if things need updated, I could go fix those along the way. Otherwise, you'll kind of be blind to the things happening behind the scenes. So that is a really good point, Brandon. And yeah, again, I kind of mitigate that through a couple of ways. One way being this list that's kind of running in the background of errors that pop up. If there's, necessary updates that occur, I get alerted for that from my email account. Um, what else? I also, I know other people who kind of like have just kind of like a I don't know how to describe it. Just some sort of notification cadence that whenever things are changed within your system or whenever there's difficulties encountered, it could just alert you in whatever way you see fit. I think one way or another, you want to make sure you're prompting Claude to build something like that, so you're keeping track of those things. But it does require it does truly require a little bit of maintenance. That is certainly a downside to building these things on your own.
But I'm assuming you would say if done right and you take the time up front, you're still getting way more leverage. It's worth the maintenance. Like
Yeah.
the output is definitely worth the maintenance.
Yeah, yeah. I like, for instance, I know a company that I've kind of loosely worked with in the past that builds like something like this for 10K and then have monthly maintenance for 5K. And that is just like an abysmal price. I think you could easily handle this like on your own in like, just like, 10 minutes. Like what they would do in probably 10 minutes is worth the 5K
Got it.
monthly recurring. I think if you do it, you could do it yourself realistically if you set it up front.
Awesome. Any other questions? Well, Ryan, I appreciate you pulling this together and I mean, I haven't created one agent before, so the fact that you did like five in a 24 hours just to see what you could do is cool.
Yeah, man. Had a lot of fun with it.
So you've got your link here. You said you've got like a guide to help people get started. That's in the form, is that right?
Yep, I'll drop it one more time. But yeah, if you fill out the
Okay.
form, I'll send you a guide on some of like obviously it'll encompass a lot of the things I shared in the PowerPoint, but also some of the more like nitty-gritty details that came about just messing with Claude along the way.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. No, thanks everyone for jumping on. This is awesome. It essentially loads up all the potential deals that hit your inbox